People ask me what are your plans for tomorrow, and I answer them, boring stuff as usual. I'm just gonna be destroying the plans about a whole Middle Eastern area, and I'm just gonna be poking at the faith of a whole geopolitical system. And this, I'm on a poetic mood today, that sounded nice. This is what I'm gonna be doing right now, okay? So buckle up and let's get started. In the previous video, I have talked about the badges on the shoulders of Israeli Defense Forces. These badges actually show a map that includes an area that is much bigger than what the Israel encompasses today. This area is supposedly, and not by coincidence, is the area that is referenced in the Bible as the Promised Land. This starts from the river of Jordan and ends at the river of Euphrates. This is a huge area that is implied by them wearing those things that they need to conquer at the end of the story. This is their goal. This is quite obvious. This is also implied in the Bible and implied by their actions. But there's a catch, and that's an obvious catch. Nobody in the world, or the most of the world, let's say, is very much against Israel having this or conquering this huge portion of land, whether it be Palestinians or the Europeans who support Palestinians. The world is not very aligned with this desire. And desire is the key word, because in the Jewish mysticism there is a really important concept. In order for anything to be accomplished according to Kabbalah, the Jewish mysticism, there needs to be an alignment or an agreement inside the human subconscious or the human collective conscious.
This desire, which is a desire to reach the spiritual, is called Israel. These corporal desires are called nations, the nations of the world. In other words, the desires of the physical world. It must fill everything despite these other corporal desires. In other words, all of the desires that we have to undergo a transformation, a correction.
In the Kabbalah, it basically says that men have to be one heart and align with the God's desire in that process of being one. So they need to find a loophole or some way that other people in this world could not oppose this idea as much as they do right now. And let me tell you, this state is a master at finding loopholes at anything. It's an ancestral hobby for them. It's a skill set that is brought by their whole roots. One way to resolve this issue with the world is to have a country there with the large borders that are in this badge. However, this country might not be actually occupied by true Jews, okay? Not true Jews, but perhaps non-Jewish Jews, pseudo-Jews, something like that. Middle East holds many ethnicities, one of them being Yazidis, Druze, Jews, Arabs, Turks, Turkmens, and one of them being Kurds. Kurds are actually a group that is very much growing since the medieval times, growing at a very fast rate. And the truth is, they had never had a modern, real country. They always wanted this, but they could never have their own actual country, and that is a very big issue for them. Kurds have had very influential people within their lineages. One of the more influential places in Kurdistan today, the area that Kurds are accompanying, is the Barzan Valley. This is a very interesting place. This Barzan Valley had put forth two very influential and effective people in the Kurdish history. Well, maybe many, but I'm gonna be talking about two. First off, the first one is the famous female Kabbalist Oснat Barzani. This woman is a very interesting figure because, as I mentioned, Kabbalah, she is Jewish, not actually Kurdish, or perhaps she is, but she is known for many mystical, magical stuff. She saved a synagogue from burning down by the help of angels which she summoned at the spot, and she's also known for something very interesting and modern. She helped herself protection from birth. She helped her own birth control. That is a real story that I have found out. We could say she was kind kind of a feminist that the modern ideologists might like, to say the least. Meaning that she is a Kabbalist, and by this information, a daughter of a rabbi, means she had very, very deep Jewish roots. And there is one more thing. There is actually research about this valley that she came from. According to the 2001 study of Oppenheim, the Y chromosome, the paternal lineage of the people in this valley, Muslim Kurds and Kurdistani Jews, share an ancient J2 paternal pool that is making them closer to one another than they are to Arabs or Turks. The Kurdistani Jews and the Kurdish tribes that are living inside this area of Barzan are actually closer to each other than they are to other ethnicities. That is a crucial information. And that is not the end. In this valley, mitochondrial DNA, which is not paternal but maternal DNA, is very isolated. A landmark international ancient DNA study published in the journal Science 2016, led by paleogeneticists from Johannes Gutenberg University, Mainz, empirically proves that the Zagros Mountains functioned as a highly powerful engine of genetic isolation, producing deeply isolated human populations. Okay, enough scientific mambo jumbo. What this actually means is quite simple. Nearly everybody there, almost extremely everybody, shares a common ancestor. And now let's connect the dots. Let's make another crucial jump. Do you know who else was from this Barzan Valley? Well, the founding father of the Kurdistan state that exists today. Yeah? And when you connect the dots, you will see that this man and this Kabbalist Jewish lady must have a common ancestor, which makes both of them slightly mystical, occultist, and Jewish or Israeli. Just a tiny bit, okay?
I see a lot of hatred. Arab hatred towards the Kurds, Muslim hatred towards the Kurds, and many of them would say we are against Kurds having their own state because it will be a second Israel. It would be, they call it it's Yehudistan.
Because the Kurds don't fit into this ideal Middle Eastern people. They don't hate Israel.
This man that has founded the current Kurdish state is called Mullah Mustafa Barzani. Not just that, but he's also known to be ally of Israel, the first to have made the first alliance with Israel, perhaps in the Kurdish history. He was actually rebelling to Iraqi state, and because of that Iraq has decided to exile him to a certain place in Iraq called Suleymania. And this place was, well, this might be a coincidence or not, I don't know, is also famous in the past for its allied minority Jewish population. But the point is not that. Suleymania was a very, very bad decision on Iraqi government's part, because Suleymania was in the future, in the very close future, going to be a Kurdish intellectual hub, to say the least. And many of the sects and taqiyas or groups of the Kurds that will gain power later on have come out of this very specific place called Suleymania. One of these cults being Kesnazan. Mullah Mustafa, the founding forefather of Kurds, have been meeting those leaders and Kurdish influential people in these lodges called taqiyya in Islamic terminology. And he was most potentially sharing his very own ideas with them and forming them in some way. Later on, we can see that the Kesnazani cult made a parallel structure within the Iraqi government. Ibrahim ad-Duri, the helper of Saddam Hussein, the president of Iraq at the time, was actually a member of this very cult called Kesnazan. And Kesnazan had almost conquered the whole state and was officially helping United States with intelligence, meaning they were kind of spies for the government. And most interestingly, there are some Turkish sources that talk about this sect or cult, saying that they had taught their students about Kabbalah, aka the Jewish mysticism. Well, many people have interpreted this as an attack, a simple attack without any sources. However, I may digress to say that only if we could the Arabic sources of this, the Turkish source of the specific author Ahmet Dinç could be very well proven true. However, this is a speculation right now, if I may be honest. So that's just one type, but before all that, Mullah Mustafa had formed an alliance with Israel in 1960.
splinters the country. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu voiced his support for Kurdish statehood.
Regarding the Kurds, they are a fighting people that have proved their political commitment, political moderation, and deserve political independence.
Israel has quietly maintained military and intelligence ties with the Kurds for decades, seeing in the minority ethnic group a buffer against shared Arab adversaries.
We should support international efforts to strengthen Jordan and support the Kurdish
We
aspirations.
can see clearly that Israel has helped Kurds in the past and is still helping Kurds in the year that we're living in right now. For example, Israel has helped Kurds gain territory in Iran in March 2026. So it's clearly that Israel wants Kurds to have their own territory. Maybe it's pitying them, but I would not say that because Israel is a country that has no pity. Look at what it did to Palestinian children. Nobody can prove to me that Israel is good-hearted enough to give a random nation their own country or help them without benefiting from them. So there's this greater Kurdistani project because Israel not only helped them gain territory but also expand the current territory that they already had. There is this greater Kurdistan project, borders of which are very interesting because the same borders could be seen on those badges of the Israeli Defense Forces map. When you collect the dots again, if it's true that the Abrahamic people or the people or all of the mankind's hearts should align in order for one diplomatic mission to be accomplished, then you must say that they have found this very loophole concerning Kurds as their pseudo-Jewish nation, non-Jewish Jews to form. And once they create this greater Kurdish state, they will take it over. I bet on that. I seriously bet on that. Of course, the point is not all of the Kurds being Jewish. However, inside many thousands of Kurdish tribes, why did Israel help Barzani to rule over every other Kurdish tribe? Kurds live in a tribal setting and their lives is totally branched with different sects and different genealogies. However, this one very Jewish-like lineage is chosen by a state to get all the power. Even the Kurds that are living inside Kurdistan today should raise an eyebrow at this. There's two main points to take away from all of this. First of which is a demonstration of how they might bend the rules and how they might bend the desires of the world in order to get one result that they want. And the second point to get is only by breaking this whole illusion can we create our own will again and create our own plan again. So I hope I put some nails, if not the final nail, I put some nails on this war and on this violent environment in the Middle East, because all I want is peace, okay? All I want is peace. And see you. Peace out. Peace out is Saint Bora.